Alright, I don't know if y'all can hear me or not. I'm trying to make sure this mic get close to my face. See, I ain't gotta really I ain't gotta do too much editing. But yeah, I'm giving y'all a slight little update. Um, been working on a lot of stuff and taking a little bit of a break because I just came back and I gotta edit that video for y'all and I'm gonna put that out. I really think y'all like it. I wasn't expecting the interview to go the way it did as far as the content wise. The guest had a very extensive background and I really like that. You know, there's a little bit of activism in there. So I think you guys will like the interview, and if it goes pretty well, I might have him back for a second one to dive a little bit deeper into kind of his upbringing a bit and kind of how it was. So maybe, but we'll see. I'm trying to go ahead and just edit it and put it out and see how the reception goes, and then from that on forward, we'll see as far as getting a second interview. But for the most part, right now, I'm really just happy that I got it done in the first place because that trip was very stressful. It was not fun. Like, it was fun on the way back, but initially getting down there, it was not fun. Like, trying to meet deadlines and text and drive and do all this other stuff. I wasn't texting and driving. I was not texting and driving. I was driving. But, um, sometimes I had to stop off and, like, answer DMs and emails and texts and stuff because people would text and call me and stuff, not knowing what I'm doing. And I'm over here like, I'm not in the city, I'm driving, I'm doing a business trip. I have to talk to you later. The stuff of that nature. So dealing with that. Plus, I had to go check into this hotel and stuff. I had to have a place to shoot the interview. I just can't shoot it on the side of the fucking street like I could, but it's gonna be noise and sound is gonna be weird, and so I had to go get a hotel and do that. And that was fine. It was just kind of annoying getting down there in the first place, but coming back, I had a really nice time traveling as far as like stopping and seeing different areas and how they look compared to other areas in the state. It was very nice. I didn't expect my state to look the way it did outside of where I stay at, because I live in a whole separate region of the state compared to the place I went to initially for the business trip. It was, I mean, it kind of looked the same, but the in between, it was untouched by society as far as like, you know, it didn't have a whole bunch of buildings and trees. It was a bunch of small towns that really, you can drive past one of them towns in like 5 minutes, 10 minutes tops. So it was a bit different, but I did like it though. And I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth about it as far as on the podcast, but for now I'm just giving a slight intermission. I keep checking my phone because I just DM somebody for an interview and I'm waiting for them to DM me back. I didn't really have another avenue to contact them, so I'm kind of just banking on them answering this, but we'll see. Other than that, I just been resting. Like I said, I had a little bit of travel lag when I got back, so I kind of just been resting. I've been kind of regrouping, adding new people to the interview list, and kind of just preparing for that, seeing who I'm gonna interview next. You know, trying to branch out. I don't want to always interview musical artists. I want to interview different types of people. I'm trying to get better at a lot of things behind the scenes, and it's kind of working. It's kind of working. I'm really happy though. I'm really happy at the way this, I don't want to call it a business, but it kind of is turning into a damn business at this point. Um, just, it's kind of overwhelming too. Not gonna cap. I'm gonna dive a little bit into the emotional side of it. As far as me being the main host, I do have co-hosts and stuff, and they just did his first interview. As far as interviewing me, it's his first, I think, solo interview. I mean, I'm there, but I'm not acting as a host or a co-host. I'm acting as the guest at that point. So it was very nice seeing how he operated being a host. He did ask a lot of good questions. He did get really high at the end though. He started this. It was almost a couple times as far as like his weed whooping his ass at the end. So probably not go recommend smoking a whole bunch before doing the interview. But you know, other than that, he did a great job. Towards the beginning, he has a lot of introspective questions. You know, really tried to get me to talk about my experiences growing up and stuff like that. But those are for separate videos, and I want to dive too deep into it. That'll be like a fucking 4 hour long video. And I know for a fact nobody's going to watch that. Some people would, but I don't have the fan base to really bank on that. I know a lot of my viewers kind of they like watching shorter type videos. This is a product of the times. You know, a lot of people like to watch shorter videos compared to longer videos for, I don't know. Some people equate it to you know, social media. Some people equate it to this generation. I don't really know. I don't have the answers for it, but not gonna lie. Not gonna lie. It's I had to adjust myself, sorry. This is a lot going on. I've really been worrying about getting these interviews in because a lot of people flake. People flake a lot. A lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people flake a lot in this host slash podcast type thing. A lot of people flake, or times just don't meet up and they can't get they time right. That should be annoying. I mean, I know I'm not always on time as far as like meeting up with people, but that's because traffic in my city is like unpredictable. It could be no traffic, and as soon as you get on the freeway, there's an accident, and now there's like 30 minutes of traffic. So ain't much I can really do about that. But for the most part, I'm trying to do better at it, and I'm trying to get better at talking too, because I have a lot of my mouth produces a lot of saliva. I don't know why, but I have to like constantly keep adjusting my like speech and stuff. Even now, I'm constantly going back listening to what I sound like in these different clips and videos and stuff, because 1 minute I could be talking normal and everything is clear. Next minute, you know, I sound muffled, sound like I'm talking over a damn spray can or something. So it's a work in progress, to put it lightly. It's a work in progress. Even talking is a skill. You have to do it a lot in order to get good at it. So I kind of been practicing talking. Even doing these type of videos is good practice for me. So I really don't mind doing them, to be honest with you. It's just I have to get used to doing them and knowing how to keep my train of thought and knowing how to keep the video interesting and for y'all, for the audience, not exactly for me myself, because you know, I know what I'm doing, but trying to communicate it to someone else is not so easy. So yeah, and I'm also trying to stop using certain words, because in normal speech we have certain words we use a lot, and you don't notice until literally you hear yourself back in a video and you say the same word like 15 times within like 30 minutes. Because we don't really pay attention to it. We don't realize different words we say so much. We say so many words. A lot of people say a lot in between the sentences and when they're talking about stuff. And sometimes it's not so bad, especially if you're trying to keep a video going and you're not trying to have, you know, dry points where it's just you, this silence. That shit is awkward. I don't know if you ever heard that on the radio when it goes from like talking to silence. That is really distracting. Like even if they start talking again like in 5 seconds, even them 2 seconds of them just being silent, you're gonna remember that, because you're gonna be like, yeah man, they were talking, and then there was a slight moment of silence, and then they kept going on about, you know, blah blah blah. So I'm trying to keep going with the talking. I'm trying to keep the conversation going. I don't want to always have these weird dry points and stuff. And even in interviews, trying to keep people's attention, because in some podcasts I've done, they didn't really read up on the list I gave them as far as the topic wise, so they kind of tours. Or sometimes they try to interject their own like talking points. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's like me, how I view things. I would give something the benefit of the doubt, and I'll look into it. And if it's interesting, I'll talk about it. But if it's not, I'll talk about how not interesting it is, or how it can be interesting. I'll try to make it interesting by any means. But with normal people, if you don't like something, you'll just click off of it. You just won't watch it. You can't really do that in an interview. If I spend half the time every time something was uninteresting, I just been like, oh, I don't want to watch this, or I don't want to talk about this. It'll be a fucking 5 minute podcast of me just talking about one thing that I find interesting and chop it up to, this was pretty cool. I liked it because it is, and that's it. That's not interesting. You got to talk about different perspectives and aspects of something, and you know, and this is not knocking anybody I've interviewed or anybody I deal with as far as podcast and interview wise. I'm just talking about my experiences doing podcasts and host work, because I really try to improve, and I really try to be not the best, but I try to improve and be myself at the end of the day, because I don't want to be a copy and paste host slash interviewer. I just interview you and I ask you basic ass questions everybody asks you, and it's just a run of the mill ass interview. I try to delve deep into almost start choking certain aspects of the humans, because we're very complex creatures. We experience everything differently individually. You can go buy you an apple and it could be so boring to you. I can go down the street around the corner, go buy the same apple. I could have a whole different experience and say it in a way that's so moving. But I had to get you to talk about it. You might not find it interesting to you because it's you every single day, but to the average viewer, they might find that profoundly interesting. So I had to get that out of them, and I try to deal with it. And everybody has the interest of what they want to talk about, and I recommend people start their own podcast with it. But a lot of people don't like. A lot of people don't like doing stuff on their own. They don't like trying. They don't like putting themselves out there and trying something new because of the fear of failure, or people want to talk about them or whatever. For me, I really don't have that problem due to the fact that I just don't care, because at the end of the day, this is going to get very morbid. So if you don't like hearing about this type of stuff, you might want to just skip over this part. But you're going to die one day. And like, when I think about that, I really don't care what Susie on the internet says about me. If I'm going to be dead in 50 years, and so is she. She could die tomorrow. She could die in 10 days. And if you listen to her, some random person on the internet, about what you do with your life, or there's anything, you might not even, you could be the greatest whatever you was going to be, but because you didn't act on that, you never found out your own true potential with a certain medium. You just took it as, oh, I don't want to do that because so and so said it's weird, or you don't have enough self confidence to, put yourself out there and say it proudly that this is what I want to do. And so with that, I had to kind of accommodate for that in the interviews and podcasts, because people really don't realize that you're not talking. It's not a personal conversation. I'm talking to an audience. They might not know what you're talking about. They might have no idea. It could be an older person in their 40s watching your video for the first time, and here you go talking about something that you think everybody knows about, but truly they don't, because you're not having a personal conversation. I'm talking to an audience. I'm talking to I'm acting as the audience in a way when I ask these questions, because I know for a fact, especially with somebody that has a little bit of notoriety, they might not. They want to ask certain questions. They want to know about their favorite artist or their favorite actor, or just anybody with a little bit of notoriety or clout. They might want to ask certain questions. So I had to think and put myself in the audience's shoes and think to myself, what would they want to know about their favorite person or one of their favorite people, you know? And it's interesting. It takes a while sometimes when I interview certain people. I have to think like, man, and I still got to be myself at the end of the day as well. I still got to interject my own personality in the interview and make them comfortable. And that too, comfortability. When I first started doing interviews, I wasn't comfortable, they wasn't comfortable, nobody was comfortable. But nowadays, I try to make it as comfortable as possible, as far as the atmosphere and their environment, because I want them to open up and talk about certain things they might not normally talk about to the normal person. Or it might be the opposite. They might want to talk about everything to somebody they might not normally talk to. And I had to learn how to be not pushy, but know when to interject and ask, like, hold on, wait a minute, what about that? Oh, what do you think about this? Oh, how did that make you feel? That's why I ask those certain type of questions, because emotions are vast. You know, everybody has emotions. No matter who you are, you have emotions. And when I try to tap into those emotions to get you to talk about them. So that's kind of all the stuff I'm doing behind the scenes that people really don't see. And I, I don't know. It's interesting. It's interesting. I do. Give me 1 second. I have to go do something right quick. On pause this. All right, I'm back. I had to go do something right quick. Sorry about that. But yeah, like I was saying, just learning the craft of interviewing and stuff like that. It really takes time, and it's something you have to do a lot. It's not something you can just get up one day and do. You have to kind of work at it. And so that's what I've been kind of trying to do. Well, that's what I've been doing, but I'm still not up to par as far as where I want to be. But it'll all come in time, I believe. Because, like I said, I'm getting better. I'm starting to notice more things. I'm getting better at it. I've even tried a normal conversation when I talk to, friends and family and stuff. Sometimes I ask them certain questions just to see what their reaction or what they would say. And if it goes well, I use those same questions in interviews sometimes, or sometimes I have to think of certain questions to ask certain people just to keep them on their toes. Because sometimes for the people that have notoriety, or they're used to being interviewed and asked questions, sometimes they might get into this mode of just you know they answer the same type of questions all the time, like I said before, like a few minutes ago. And it's up to you to get that out of them. Sometimes you might throw in like a little, like a wild card question, like, have you ever did any type of drugs or anything? And that's always a good conversation for most people, because drugs alter your sense of reality. So you're gonna get a good story regardless, even if it's terrible, even if it ended in flames and and shit. It'll still be a funny story or interesting story just to hear about. And people are always like, whenever you ask somebody about stuff like that, they're always like, oh my gosh, man, I got this one story or this one time. And so after that, they might loosen up a bit, realize this is not exactly the run of the mill interview, and might give you, you know, that iconic moment that some people look for in interviews. I never told this before, but I'm gonna tell this particular podcast, and now you have something that no one else has as far as information wise about a certain person that will bring traction. It's all about how you think of things. You have to do your research and kind of just listen to people. I've been doing that a lot, even when I work these 9 to 5, because I don't make a lot of money from these interviews and stuff. I kind of just I do it just for fun, out of my own personal reasons. when I go to these different jobs, and so sometimes if they allow it, I usually be having earphones in. I'll listen to interviews while I'm working, and to give me a sense of what I need or what I need to work on in a way. And that all this is leading up to just making better interviews and podcast work. Yes, I've already been working on it, but now that I feel like I got a good grasp on it to a certain extent. I'm not always, rambling anymore. I am a little bit, but not too much. I'm asking better questions. It's more, I don't have to have a piece of paper. I have my laptop in front of me to remember questions. I can organically ask them off the top of my head. I really don't have to have questions for some people. Some people I do to have an extensive background. I have to make key points I want to ask about because I will forget. Just in the grand scheme of asking them all these different questions, because I don't write down questions from 0 all the way up until an hour and 30 minutes until the end of it. I don't do that. I usually try to. I have certain questions I want to ask at certain points in the interview, but I want to get certain things out the way first, if that makes sense. I want to touch on your childhood before I touch on, your adolescence, where this one incident happened or this one situation happened that you posted on social media that I want to ask you about. Then when we go over that, we get that covered. I'm going to touch on something else that happened 2 years after that you documented on social media or that you talked about in another interview. Stuff of that nature. It's a lot more that goes into it besides just getting up there talking to somebody and asking them funny questions. It don't always go like that. So it's a lot of behind the scenes work, but I enjoyed it. I'm learning still, and it's not always fun and stuff. Sometimes it's a lot of work. I'm starting to realize that, but I still enjoy it at the end of the day. I wouldn't trade it for nothing else. I'm having fun. I'm enjoying myself, and I'm still doing other stuff too in other mediums. It's not always about interview work and podcast work.